Namaste, and welcome to tonight's webinar. Back by popular demand is Chef Divya Alter with another Ayurvedic cooking demonstration for us. This time, she will be applying Ayurvedic principles to Italian cuisine. For those of you who are not familiar with the Hindu American Foundation, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that works to create a better understanding of Hinduism and Hindu Americans through advocacy. Born in Bulgaria, Divya is a certified nutritional consultant and educator in the Shaka Vansiya Ayurveda tradition. She spent 5 years studying in India. She is the co-founder of Bhagavat Life, the only Ayurvedic culinary school in New York. She and her husband launched North America's first Ayurvedic chef certification program and Divya's Kitchen, her incredible Ayurvedic restaurant here in New York City. Divya is also the author of What to Eat for How You Feel, the new Ayurvedic Kitchen. Her last cooking demonstration with HAF was one of our most popular, so we are incredibly excited to have her back this evening. But before I turn it over to Divya, I have a couple of quick housekeeping items. We will be recording tonight's program, and it will be released on the Hindu American Foundation website, as well as our YouTube channel. And tonight's recipe, because I know a lot of people are going to ask, will also be available on our website. Second, everybody is muted given the number of registrants. And after Divya's demonstration, we will have a limited time for a moderated Q&A. So as many of you know and have already started doing, please ask your questions through the Q&A feature. We will not be able to respond to the raise hand feature or chats or take questions by audio. Finally, tonight's webinar is partly made possible by HAF's sponsor, Banyan Botanicals, an Ayurvedic wellness company committed to offering high quality, sustainably sourced, fairly traded herbs and lifestyle products. Now, without further ado, I will pass it over to Divya.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thank you for the wonderful, very kind introduction. Namaste, everybody. It's a real pleasure, and I'm very happy to be back with the Hindu American Foundation. And thank you, Sheetal, and the whole team for your incredible work to inspire and to guide many, many people. So thank you again. Today, I'm very excited to show you how to prepare one of my favorite vegetables. This is the artichoke. And I have to admit, artichoke is kind of a late love for me. I grew up in Bulgaria, and artichoke is not part of the culture. Maybe now it's becoming a little bit more popular, but I grew up not knowing what the artichoke was. And then I lived in India for 5 years, and artichoke wasn't available there either. And when I moved to the United States, I would go grocery shopping and I would always pass by the artichoke. It was something that I couldn't relate to. It just looked strange. I didn't know what to do with it. And I was just, well, maybe one day I will brave to try an artichoke. But then when I met my Ayurvedic teacher, Vaidya Ramakant Mishra, he spoke so highly about the artichoke and about its incredible healing properties. So I decided to give it a try, and I fell in love with the artichoke. So a little later, I will tell you about the healing properties and why artichokes is so important in our diet, and also why, and they, especially in season, the season is just about starting. In California, in New York, it will come a little bit later, but maybe you're one of those people who pass by the artichokes in the grocery stores. And I really hope that today's class will inspire you to discover the artichoke. For me, artichoke is always a discovery. There's a stem, there is a petals. Is it a flower? Is it a vegetable? What is it? So I hope that you discover the artichoke today and do something with it to in the next few days, because it's really, really good for you. Let me just Oh yeah, so why do I choose Italian cooking? I love Italian flavors, and I've never been to Italy, but I have a lot of Italian friends. So every time I need advice on anything related to Italian cuisine, I would check in with my Italian friends. I have a friend here in New York. Her name is Franca Foligatti, and she's such a foodie. And she was telling me how artichokes are popular in Italy. I think it depends on the region, how their popularity varies according to region. But Italy is the biggest producer of artichokes in the world. And I think artichokes are one of the reasons why Italian people in the Mediterranean diet are considered to be among the healthiest as well. So I will show you an Italian dish of steamed artichokes with olive tapenade. And some people say, well, how can you make Italian Ayurvedic? And I always say Ayurveda is a universal science. You don't have to limit Ayurvedic cooking to Indian cooking. You can apply the universal principles of Ayurvedic cooking to any kind of cuisine, and actually create an incredible variety of really tasty, easy to digest, and very healthy dishes. So I want to first show you how to peel and how to prepare the artichoke. The artichoke is, first of all, it's a thistle. It's very prickly. It has these little thorns on top of it, and you have to be careful when you prepare it because you don't want to prick yourself. So let's see. We can move to the other camera right now, and you can see the closer the little petals of the artichoke. Now we'll start preparing it by first removing the outer petals. You have to be patient. The artichoke teaches us how to be patient. It takes a little bit of prep, but then the result is very rewarding. I'm removing the petals away. When you grocery shop for artichokes, always look for the ones that are kind of tight and a little heavy. And also look for the artichokes that don't have a lot of black or brown spots. It means when they're very vibrant green, it means that they're very fresh. So you will see that when we get closer to the inner circle, the petals snap a little easier. So there are different ways to prepare the artichoke depending on which part do you want to use. The tastiest part is the core or the heart of the artichoke. But today I also want to use the petals. So I remove the outer leaves of the artichoke, and then I will cut the prickly parts. Now for this, you need to have a really good knife, really good and sharp knife, and be careful because this is also a very fast way to dull your knife. So using a sharp knife, we remove the prickly tips of the petals. And now I want to use part of the stem. So I will just cut off some of the stem and peel the outer parts. Even though the artichoke is not really listed among the vegetables in the Ayurvedic texts, but we can still use our senses to determine the properties, the attributes of the artichoke. And the main taste of the artichoke is astringent and also a little bit sweet. So, but I find that the stem is bitter. So the stem is more bitter, and the core, the heart, and the leaves are astringent and a little sweet. So now I'm going to cut through the heart, through the middle. And to make it easier, we can just cut it in quarters. You can also cut it in halves. You can leave the halves and cook it this way, but just to make it easier to clean the choke in the middle, I'm going to cut it. I have to use the other knife. This one is hard to maneuver. Oops. Now, look at how beautiful this is with the purple in the middle, but these leaves are really prickly as well, so we have to remove them. And I'm going to use a small spoon to bring this ball back, to remove the choke part. So you see these little fuzzy, hairy particles, this is the choke, and this can really choke you. So I'm going to remove those. You don't want to serve those. And also I will remove the purple leaves because they're actually very prickly. Is that the word? My husband always corrects my English, for which I'm very grateful. Now, some people, you will notice how the white parts are beginning to oxidize and darken. I don't have problem with that. I don't mind having my artichokes darker. But if you like to improve the looks of it, you can, as you're cutting, you can also rub the artichoke, the cut parts, with a little bit of lime or lemon juice. And this would prevent the oxidation. Come back to, where's my spoon? It takes time to prepare it, but not that much time. It is much better to use a fresh artichoke than to use the canned artichoke hearts. Again, canned food, as we discussed in our last class, canned food is devoid of prana, is devoid of life force, and it will fill up your stomach, but it will not give you a lot of energy. And also, canned artichoke hearts are very, very acidic. You put a lot of acid in them as a preservative. Now, one amazing healing benefit of the artichoke is that it is a cholagogue. Cholagogue is a fancy word for the type of foods that help the bile flow. A lot of us experience digestive problems when the bile is too thick and kind of lazy to flow properly. We can experience bloating or gas. In some cases, the lack of bile flow causes high acidity in the stomach or heartburn. So artichokes are one of the best foods for helping the bile flow. And I highly recommend eating them, especially if you have gallbladder problems, liver problems. Definitely include artichokes in your weekly diet, at least once a week, because it will really, really help. Artichokes are also rich in glutathione and other antioxidants that support the liver function. And I'm going to, now I will just start, we'll steam the artichokes. I'm going to just start to boil the water for the steaming. And maybe, maybe I can quickly make one more. Now see how much waste we have from just one artichoke. So when I first made artichokes for a couple Indian friends of mine, and they were like, there's so much waste. And then there's so much work to get to the heart of the artichoke. And I always joke about that, because you have to work to get to the heart of a matter. You have to work to get to the heart of a person. So artichokes always inspire me about not giving up to reach the heart. Here, let's do it one more time. Another fantastic attribute and healing property of the artichoke is that it's very helpful with high blood pressure and especially high cholesterol. It helps reduce high cholesterol, and it's also a very good food for diabetic conditions. And in terms of the doshas, artichoke balances Pitta and Kapha dosha. That's the fiery and the earthy. And that's why also seasonally, the season for artichoke is late spring and early summer, which is the end of Kapha spring season and the beginning of summer or Pitta season. Very balancing. Now, one thing you can also do is you can trim these parts here, the base of the leaves. You can't really eat those. You know, artichoke is such an important food for our gallbladder, and nowadays removing like gallbladder removal is one of the most common surgeries in America. So I really wish that we all eat more artichokes and keep our gallbladders healthy. Now again, I will go through the middle. And then again. It's just so strange. Just connect with the experience. If you've never cooked an artichoke, go for the adventure and connect with the experience, because it's a whole sensual experience of how it feels to touch these fuzzy things and then the prickly things. If you could also you could use baby, what do you call it? Yeah, baby artichokes. And they're much faster to prepare because they don't have the fuzzy things inside. So you can skip that part. But if you prepare baby artichokes, then you will have to use more. Right now, the recipe that you will see tomorrow, it calls for 4 medium artichokes. And right now I'm just using 2. Just to save time. And if you're using baby artichokes, obviously you have to use more because they're just smaller. I love artichokes. I usually eat 2 for a meal. I just really, it feels so good to eat them. They're very alkalizing food. And when you eat them, you have this alkaline taste in your mouth. It just feels so nice. All right, this part goes in the garbage or the compost. And this part is what we're going to eat. And the water is boiling. I'm sorry, I don't have a camera above the stove, so I will just move the pot. Before I put the steaming basket, I'm going to add a couple of bay leaves. And instead of bay leaves, if you have cassia leaf, it's in India, it's called Tejpata. Go ahead and use the Tejpata. Tejpata is the leaf of the cinnamon tree, cinnamon leaf, cassia. And it really helps with carbohydrate digestion, but it also gives a really nice flavor. It will infuse the artichokes with a very nice flavor. I have the steaming basket here. And before I put the artichokes in the steamer, I would just lightly salt them. So there will be a very gentle flavor infused into the artichoke hearts. They look so small now. Artichokes are heavy by nature. They have a heating metabolic effect, but not that heating because of their sweet post-digestive effect. That's why artichokes don't aggravate Pitta very much. That's why they're very balancing for Pitta. and kapha. Okay, I'm going to cover and we'll steam them. We'll check them in about 20 minutes. And in the meantime, we'll make the olive tapenade. So yes, they're a little artichokes are a little heating. They are, but they're not too imbalancing for pitta. They can be a little bit imbalancing for vata dosha, the airy, because they're very high fiber. But still, with the olive tapenade that we make today, it will be a very nice balance. And that's something you can do also in your own cooking. Don't just get stuck on the dosha effect or the effect that an ingredient has on the body, because you can always balance it with another ingredient. So sometimes people say, oh, cabbage is not good for vata, but maybe sometimes, and you're very vata, you're very airy by nature, maybe sometimes you really need the cleansing properties of cabbage, but there are spices like ginger or black pepper, maybe a little bit of chili, that will help you digest the cabbage without the gassy properties. So that's what I love about Ayurveda. You can balance ingredients to enjoy a very wide variety of vegetables and fruits and herbs. Okay, so while the artichokes are cooking, let's make the olive tapenade. Now, tapenade is really comes from French cuisine. It's like a paste from olives, usually black olives. They put capers as well. I don't have capers today. I'm just going to use black olives. And tapenade is also part of Italian cuisine. They just have a different name for it. And there are very ancient Italian cookbooks that actually describe how to make an olive paste. So we'll make a very nice variation of an olive paste, Italian style. And we will use black olives. I really like these are black Moroccan olives. I like the olives that are cured with salt, and not so much the olives that are cured with vinegar, because vinegar is very, very acidic. So I buy these Moroccan olives. They come very salty, and that's why I always soak them in water a little bit for a day or two, change the water a couple of times, and it takes away the salt, similar to a lot of people do that with capers as well, that are very salty. So these are olives that are soaked in water just to reduce the salt content. And we're going to use a food processor for this. You could also use a small blender. And I am actually tripling the recipe that you will receive. I'm using a whole cup of olives because my husband and I really love this tapenade. So I have, and make sure they're pitted olives, because the pits, obviously, we don't want the pits. So I have the olives, and we'll add some lime juice. It's cooking too much. I'm just going to lower it a little bit. My teacher, Vaidya Mishra, always recommended to use more limes than lemons. I know lemons are a very big part of, and more popular probably, but lemons are more acidic and more heating. So for people, especially in the summer, for people who tend to have more acidity in the muscles, in the blood, and people who tend to be more heating, then you can still get the sour taste through limes, because limes are sweeter and more alkalizing. One more half. All right, so now we'll pulse it. This will make a little bit of noise. Just move it. Yeah. I'm just pulsing it. I actually like the tapenade to be a little chunky, not too pasty. That's just my personal preference. So you can see now that it kind of it chopped really quickly. I'll just run it one more time. Okay, so you can see now it's a little chunky. We're going to add fresh herbs to this. And it will continue, these little big pieces, they will chop evenly. I have some black pepper. It's always good to grind your black pepper fresh. I love the mortar and pestle. Black pepper can be very acidic if it's not freshly ground. It becomes acidic quickly, and acidity can aggravate your fiery energies. So black pepper is a wonderful, my teacher used to call it channel opener. It opens the physical channels in the body. And also because the artichokes are heavy, a little heavy to digest, you adding black pepper will help to digest them. Then we're going to add fresh parsley. Now, one thing you will notice in Italian cooking is there are not a lot of spices like turmeric, and use some cumin. They definitely use some, I'm just coarsely mincing this, chopping it. They use some cumin, some coriander, more pepper, but not as many spices as we use in Indian cooking. So, but in Italian cooking, we use a lot of fresh herbs, fresh or dried herbs. And I think we all know basil. Italian cooking is very much identified with basil. Basil is so good for your digestion. And I think basil is just what saves the heavy Italian dishes with all the cheese and all the pasta. It just helps us digest it. Basil is one of the best herbs. You can also make basil tea if you have stomach cramps. It has such a wonderful flavor as well. And parsley is the richest green in one of the greens that's richest in iron. It has a lot of iron. And this is fresh mint. I picked it from my balcony. I love to grow herbs on my balcony. I've had this mint for maybe, I don't know, 8 years. It just keeps growing. Every year it comes back. If you have a little balcony or a garden or a yard, I highly recommend that you grow your own fresh herbs. There is nothing more satisfying than using fresh herbs at home. And now I'm going to pick, this is my pride. Where is I had the scissors somewhere. I'm going to pick some fresh lemon thyme. There's several varieties of thyme. My favorite is lemon thyme. You can use regular thyme as well. Lemon thyme is another wonderful herb for digestion. It's very good also for coughs. You can use it in tea. In Bulgaria, we use it a lot for tea. It smells so amazing. It's very refreshing. I went to the farmer's market and I got small plants, and then I repotted them and I keep them on my balcony, and they seem very happy. Here, look at this. So again, we're not using a lot of the traditional Ayurvedic spices, but we're using a lot of herbs. And they also add a very enticing flavor, but they also help with digestion. So in Ayurvedic cooking, we're always concerned about how we're going to digest the food. Because if you don't digest it fully, that semi-digested matter turns into very like sticky, sludgy kind of matter that can clog our channels in the body. It can cause stiffness of the muscles. And if it just stays there in the body, if it gets stuck, then it becomes very acidic and reactive and the perfect ground for disease to grow. So in Ayurveda, we're always concerned about how we're going to digest our food. All right, so I added parsley, mint, basil, and lemon thyme. Let me see if I'm missing something. No, that's it. So I'll pulse it one more time. With the olives, we also have lime juice and pepper. I'm not adding salt because these olives are still very salty. So if you're not sure if you need to add salt, you can always maybe taste one olive and see how salty it is. Just a little more. It looks very fresh. Just a couple more times. All right, I think it needs just a little bit of lime juice. Artichokes also need lime. So, because the lime elevates the heaviness of the artichokes. So the tapenade will be a very balancing side dish for them. All right. Created a lot of mess here. Cooking is messy. That's okay. Let me just clean this up. I wish I could speak with you and hear more about your experience with artichoke, or the first time you ate or the first time you cooked an artichoke. And again, please don't be intimidated to try something new. This is our olive tapenade. This, you can refrigerate this in a jar or container for up to a week. And the tapenade goes really well with so many things. You can spread it on a piece of toast. You can serve it with crackers. You can put it on top of pasta. It's a really nice dip to have at home. You can serve it as a side dish. You can serve it as an appetizer. All right. I'm going to check on the artichokes now. And to check on the artichokes, I'm going to use a skewer, and I'll just poke the heart, which is the denser part of the artichoke, and I'll see if it's tender. It needs about 5 more minutes. It's just a little, it's not completely done yet. So maybe I can take some questions for 5 minutes.
Great, that sounds wonderful. We have a number of questions filtering in already. I'm going to start from the beginning. There were a couple of questions about artichokes. You had mentioned not to use canned artichokes. People are asking about frozen artichokes and artichokes that come in glass jars.
You broke up a little bit. I couldn't hear you. What artichokes?
Sorry, people are asking if not canned artichokes, what about frozen artichokes, or what about the artichokes that come in the glass jars?
Yeah, so I mean, it's the same principle. You have to understand that we consider, especially in Ayurveda, we consider how every food carries a vibration. And we also, for us to be healthy, it's important to eat foods that have high vibrational value. So fresh artichokes have very high vibration, but when you freeze them, the prana, the life force, goes down. So they will give us less prana, less energy. And the artichokes in jars is the same principle. So it's not fresh. I know it's very convenient. You're gonna skip all that prep that we did, but I always encourage, especially when you want to get all these medicinal benefits that we spoke about, you want to use the fresh artichokes. And maybe engage your family, engage your kids in taking the petals out and taking the choke out. Make it fun as well, but always focus on using as much as possible fresh vegetables rather than frozen or canned.
Okay, that was the main question we had on artichokes. Now a bunch of questions for you on the Olive Tapenade. The first question was, could you use green olives instead of black?
Yeah, you can use green. The traditional is black. You can use green, or you can mix green and black. You can totally do that. It will look more colorful that way. I like the black because it has a nice contrast with the green herbs. Or you could use, let's say, 50-50 black and green, and then it will look very nice with the herbs as well.
A few people asked for the olive, the kind of olive that you were using and where you purchased it. Some people mentioned that it's a little more challenging to find olives cured in salt. The traditional ones seem to be cured just in vinegar. So if you could share that, that would be great.
Yeah, I know. Well, these olives I got from our wholesale distributor for Divya's Kitchen. So I just got them like a big bag of 5 pounds, and they came like vacuum sealed, and they were very, very salty. I know that's not the common way to get it. There are health food stores that sell salt cured olives. I've seen it here, like in our neighborhood, we have a store like that. So maybe when you go to the store, just ask if they have olives cured in salt. Because maybe they do, you just never notice them. Sometimes I've also seen olives that are cured in salty water, and they're more plump. The salt cured olives are very dry, and they're a little wrinkled. Well, not very dry, but they're drier. And I've seen also olives that are cured in water and salt, and they're a lot more plump. So just look for olives that are without vinegar. You can ask in the store.
Okay. Someone wanted to know if thyme is considered a sattvic herb.
Thyme?
Correct.
Yeah, why wouldn't it be? I mean, it's heating. It's definitely a very sattvic herb. It has heating properties, which gives it really good digestive powers, and it has a wonderful aroma. So I wouldn't see why it's not the sattvic. Why wouldn't it be a sattvic herb? Like the more rajasic, or so sattvic is something that promotes balance, peace of mind, enlightenment, like these type of energies. The more rajasic, the more passionate herbs would be onions, garlic, like that. So,
okay.
But yeah, thyme is sattvic.
Okay. So you mentioned garlic. A couple of questions around that Italian cuisine uses a lot of garlic. And there were some questions as to whether that amount of garlic is recommended in Ayurvedic diet.
Yeah, hold that thought. We'll come back to that question.
Okay.
I don't want to overcook the artichokes now. All right. So these are, I hope, can you see through the steam? Oh, let me just move the cutting board a little bit. Yeah, it's better. So these are steamed artichokes. You can see they didn't turn very dark because I limed them. I brushed them with lime juice. So they're very hot. I'm going to transfer them to a plate. little slippery. You can serve them family style. I have a big platter with artichokes. That will be so good for your whole family. Everybody's bile will be moving. It's when your bile is not moving properly, you don't feel good. So you feel kind of stuck, and you may also experience discomfort on your right side under the ribs. I'm going to brush them with a little bit of olive oil just to make them look shiny. You can also skip that part. To balance vata, especially if you feel more airy, definitely use more olive oil. The fat will help ground vata. So, and then what you can also do, if you're serving them on a platter like that, you can also sprinkle some fresh herbs on top. It looks really nice. This thyme is flowering now. I can see these little pink flowers. It looks so pretty. And if I had a bigger platter, I would put the olive tapenade maybe in the middle, so people can help themselves. And to make a complete meal, you can serve this with pasta. I pre-cooked some pasta just to save time. Now, if you like to, always look for the good quality pasta, the whole grain pasta. This is kamut. Kamut is an Asian grain. And I seasoned it with a little bit of olive oil, and you can, Franca, my Italian friend, she recommended to add a little bit of lime juice as well. Let's see. If you have pesto, you can also use pesto. Mix the pasta with pesto. In my cookbook, What to Eat for How You Feel, I have a very nice recipe for kale and arugula pesto. You could also add the tapenade, some of the tapenade to the pasta and mix it with the pasta. This is kind of family style, and you can also serve a plate with a few artichokes, a little bit of pasta, some olive tapenade, maybe some pesto. I have some pesto that we made today at the restaurant. Let's add some of that. It's a very filling and a very satisfying meal, Italian style. But one thing you have to remember is whenever you serve artichokes, always serve an extra plate for all the petals that that are going to be discarded. And I can show you also how to eat artichoke, because many people who've never eaten artichoke before, they look at it and they're like, what do I do with it? Do I cut it? Do I use fork and knife? How do you eat this? And eating it is kind of messy. That's another whole discovery. I normally, when I prepare something like this, I usually bless it. I chant mantras to bless the food, and then I would serve it. So I don't know, should I show you how to eat the artichoke?
Actually, that was one of the questions. Someone just asked, how do you eat that?
Okay. That's a very important question. So, all right. Now you have to wait until they're not too hot, and you eat them with your hand, really. Have clean hands, and you take, so you start petal by petal. So see, when you take a petal, you're going to use, you kind of run this through your teeth to get this part out, and because that's a little bit of a meaty part. And you can also add a little bit of tapenade. You can serve the tapenade in little individual balls. Put a little bit of tapenade for flavor, and then eat it. You can change the camera. And then it looks like this. So I ate this part. The other part is super fibrous. So you keep going, petal by petal. You have to be patient. The inner petals, actually, these petals are pretty soft. You can eat the whole thing. And then you get to the artichoke heart. This is our artichoke heart. This is the best part. It's dense and meaty, and it has a little bit of sweetness to it. It's just so good. So you continue to eat it. You can put a little pesto, you can dip it and eat it with a dip. Add some pasta to it. It's an experience. And then what you end up with, you're going to have another plate with petals, like full of things that you have to discard. So yes, it takes work to get to the heart, but it's very rewarding. So we have a few more minutes. There was a question. Let's go back to the question about garlic. Would you repeat the question one more time?
Certainly. So someone had mentioned that Italian cuisine uses quite a bit of garlic and asked whether that was okay from an Ayurvedic perspective, and if not, how would you balance that out?
Yes. So, well, yes and no. So garlic is used in a lot of Italian dishes, but from all the Italian friends and chefs that I've met, they actually don't use that much garlic. Like they would use a little bit just for flavor, but not to overpower the food. And a few years ago, very interesting for me because I cook without garlic, there was a whole chef's movement in Italy for garlic-free cuisine. Because the chefs were like, yeah, it overpowers all the other flavors and this and that. And you can actually search it on the internet. There was a whole movement. I don't know if they still do it, but for garlic free, because the garlic has such an overpowering flavor. In Ayurveda, we use garlic, the traditional Ayurveda that I'm trained in, the Shaka Vansiya Ayurveda. We use garlic as a medicine, and it's not recommended for daily use because garlic is very powerful, but it also very powerful medicine, but it also has certain side effects. It can have side effects in the gut, it can have side effects on the mind. So it's recommended to use occasionally and not for daily use. So instead of garlic, and that's something actually I forgot to put, but it's in your recipe, is to use Asafoetida or hing. And Asafoetida has the very strong sulfury flavor of garlic or onions, but it doesn't, it's also very heating for your liver, but it's not as heating as garlic, and it will not affect or disturb the friendly bacteria in your gut the way garlic could. So I know many people disapprove this philosophy. That's probably the biggest opposition I always face. Why not onions and garlic? And I always explain that it's actually that the philosophy, the concept is to use it occasionally for medicinal use. Like it has really powerful antiviral properties. If you got the coronavirus or any other virus, it will help you go through that very fast. But then it can create a lot of heat in your liver, in your spleen. It can disturb the friendly bacteria in your gut. So it has side effects as well. So Asafoetida is a good replacement for flavor. I use it's called the best hing ever. Hing is the Hindi name for Asafoetida. it's from pure Indian foods, is so strong that you don't have to follow the proportions in the recipe. You just need a tiny pinch because it's very pure and very, very strong. Oof. I didn't even smell it. It just passed through my nose, and it's, yeah, you can really smell the sulfur. But if you're very fiery, you want to stay away from onions, garlic, Asafoetida. These are very, very heating herbs that can affect. If the heat is too much in your liver and it's not going out, and you keep eating those very spicy heating foods, then it starts coming through your skin. It starts coming through your eyes, through your emotions. You become like a volcano, erupting easily. So be careful, don't play with too many heating foods. Forgot to mention also for the tapenade, if you're more kapha person or even more vata, you can add a little bit of green Thai chili. I know a lot of people are thinking now, oh yeah, I'm definitely adding the chili. It wouldn't be traditional Italian. They probably wouldn't put chili, but if you need the heat, the spiciness, just to be satisfied, then you can add a little bit of Indian fusion by adding a little bit of chili to the tapenade.
Another question on the tapenade, can you substitute dry herbs if you don't have fresh?
You can, yes. It have a different appearance because the fresh herbs give this really fresh, like green, like little green specks in the tapenade. It looks really pretty. But you can use dry herbs. You have to remember, you have to lower the proportions. So the proportion for dry to fresh is 3 parts fresh, 1 part dry. So if you're using 3 tablespoons fresh, you need 1 tablespoon of the dry. Just make sure to use less whenever you use any kind of dry herb.
Someone had a question about the pesto that you had mentioned. Does the kale need to be steamed or cooked before making the pesto?
Yes, if you actually see the recipe, I chopped the pesto in the food processor. I just pulse it to make it finely chopped, and then I saute it in a little bit of olive oil for literally just a few seconds to wilt it, because raw kale can be very disturbing for the gut. And yeah, the oxalic acid and too much fiber, it just can be very disturbing. So I never really use raw kale. It's not part of Ayurvedic cooking. It's always good to steam the kale, to lightly saute it until it's vibrant green, but it makes it much easier to digest.
Can you share the salt that you use? I know you shared it on the last webinar, but there are a number of folks who asked about that.
Yeah, so this is my favorite salt. It's called Soma salt. Soma means moon in Sanskrit, and it's called Soma salt. That's one of the names. Another traditional name in Ayurveda is Saindava. It's a white Himalayan rock salt. It comes from the Himalayas, but it's whiter rocks. It's whiter because, like, unlike the pink Himalayan salt, it has less iron. It's still very rich in minerals, but the more pink the salt is, the more iron it has, and iron is a very heating for the liver mineral. So Soma salt is considered the most cooling of all salts. It's very gentle. It's not as salty. It has a really nice ratio of the main minerals: sodium, magnesium, potassium, iron. So but it's a very gentle salt, and I really like cooking with it. You can get it, the only place that I'm able to get it is chandika.com. It's an online Ayurvedic store. Yeah, chandika.com.
Okay. Now a question from a different angle. How do you suggest that a busy mom or dad approach Ayurvedic cooking for family members who have different doshas without having to create 4 different dishes or menus?
Yeah, and without stressing out and going crazy. I know this is a challenge. I addressed this in my cookbook, What to Eat for How You Feel. But just real quick, what the most helpful thing that I find is when you prepare a seasonal meal with seasonal ingredients, seasonal vegetables, herbs, and then create side dishes to balance each dosha. Let's say your husband is very fiery, very pitta. Your kid is very kapha and still growing, and then you feel very vata, like very airy. So how do you balance? You can create a seasonal meal and including all the 6 tastes of food, because by definition, when you have all the 6 tastes, sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and stringent in one meal or in one dish, that meal becomes tridoshic or balancing for everybody. But then you have side dishes. So you could have a hot sauce on the side, like a chutney or a sauce. And well, maybe your child is a little more like a teenager, a little grown up, so they can have spicy. Or you can have a little bit spicy, but your husband, who is very fiery and cannot tolerate very spicy foods, he can still enjoy a full meal without the heat. So always you can create like a few side dishes, or even one side dish as a sauce to increase the certain tastes for to support the digestion of the different doshas. Or a drink, you can have different tea, or like a ginger drink on the side that will help kapha and vata.
Great. Well, I think we have time maybe for just one last question. Someone wants to know, going back to the prana that you mentioned in food, do dehydrated fruits and vegetables also retain their prana? And would you recommend using them in Ayurvedic cooking?
Yes, so unlike so dehydration is a very good way to preserve the prana. So yes, the prana is protected in dehydration, but so also dehydration has to be done properly. Like don't just dry it on the sun because it's exposed to too many elements and contaminants. Like drying it in a food dehydrator is probably a better idea, or in a dry place, but make sure that it's not getting dusty or bugs are not attacking the ingredient. But yes, just keep in mind that dehydrated ingredients are very dry, obviously. So they're very aggravating for vata, the airy, because vata is very dry. So whenever you have to use dry fruits, always hydrate them first, like soak them in water or cook them enough so they come fully back to life. And yes, sometimes it's a much better way to preserve food than can it or freeze it.
Great. Well, it's 8:30 on the dot, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much, Divya, for coming back once again. This was fantastic. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience. I'm still learning how to do online classes because I'm new to this. This is last time with you. It was the first class I've ever did. This was the second class. And thank you everybody for tolerating me. And we are preparing, obviously, with the current pandemic, it will take a while until we're able to resume our in-person classes at our school in New York. So we're developing a very nice curriculum for online classes. We'll have spice workshops and all kinds of other topics. So there will be a link for you. You're welcome to register and follow us. We're also developing a really nice line of culinary products that can help you make Ayurvedic cooking much easier at home. So follow us at Divya's Kitchen NYC on Instagram, or join our mailing list on divyaskitchen.com, and we'd love to stay in touch and would love to share with you. And hopefully, I really hope to meet a lot of you in person. So when everything opens up, please come to our restaurant. And if you watched one of those videos, let me know. I'd love to see your face.
Great. Thank you so much, Divya. And to everyone who's attended and registered, please note that tomorrow you will be receiving an email from the Hindu American Foundation, and it will have a number of the links that Divya just mentioned. So you'll be able to find all of her fantastic stuff, and you will also get a link to the recipe for tonight. So with that, thank you and namaste.
Thank you so much.